What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm out here in the shop this morning. My Mahindra has broken down. It's been broke for, I don't know, a couple weeks, I guess, or I just realized it was broke. Actually, I was having a little bit of issue with it before then, having hydraulic problems with it. And I did a little bit of investigation on it, try to figure out what the problem is. And what I figured out is it is getting air in the hydraulic oil. And what it's doing is when you raise the loader up after it runs for a little bit, it'll get jerky, like it's got air in the hydraulic system. And then after you run it for 20 or 30 minutes, I guess it gets so much air in it. If you cut the tractor off, as long as it's running, it continues to work. But if you cut the tractor off and let it set for say 15 or 20 minutes to do something, and then you crank it back up, it's like the hydraulic pump loses prime. It will not lift the loader. No hydraulic functions work, so you can't do anything with the tractor unless you rivet up like wide open and just hold it on the floor and wait probably 8 to 10 seconds, and it's enough suction created by the pump. At that point, I guess it will go ahead and repick the aerated fluid up. I'm assuming that's what's going on. If you let it set overnight, because it did that other day, and I didn't want to rivet up like that because that's not helping the pump any to do that. But I had to load it on the trailer the other day, and I didn't have much option. But the other day when I was testing it, I got it to do that. I run it for about 30 minutes, and I cut the tractor off, let it set about 20, 30 minutes, cranked it back up. Loader wouldn't do nothing, no hydraulic functions. So I cut the tractor back off and I let it sit overnight, 24 hours, whatever. Come back out here, cranked it up, loader raises fine, everything works fine. All the air and the hydraulic fluid had went away. So I don't know if I got something going on with the suction line. I've called myself looking at it the best I can. It runs from the pump that's up here on the side of the engine down all the way to the bottom of the sump back here that's built into the rear end housing. I don't know if you can see the bottom of it down there, but anyway, that's where it goes. And so I don't see any issue there. So what I'm going to try is changing the filter. This filter is not that old because it's probably only a little over 100 hours on it. But it has the tractor has ran over something. Something has smacked the bottom of that filter. So I don't know if it could have damaged something inside there, or if there's metal in the hydraulic fluid that's caused the filter to come stopped up in that short of time, and there's a restriction and the pump's pulling so hard that's the issue. Or if we got the pump is bad and it's pulling air from the seal on the pump, sucking air in that way, or what's going on. Something else that's happened is I've got a leak on this joystick right here that's leaking some fluid down, and that seems to be getting worse. I don't think that's causing an issue with the pump, but that's something else that'll probably have to be fixed. But depending on how bad it starts leaking, of course the aerated fluid may be making it leak worse. I'm not sure. But I ordered a new filter from Mahindra, and I don't know how much luck we're going to have with this. I think I'm going to crank this thing up and let it run for just a minute and show you the hydraulic fluid, how aerated it gets in just a short period of time. And that way you guys can see what I'm talking about here. And then we will swap the filter out and kind of go from there and see, does it make a difference. See, the fluid is clean, it's on the full mark, no issues there. Now I'm gonna crank the thing up, and it don't take long at all. It just becomes super aerated. And see, the loader will work like right now with no problem. Hydraulics work fine, no problem. Yeah, it's still good right now. It might take it a minute. it's starting to foam up a little bit. I don't know if you can see it there. Screw it on down in there. And that's only like 30 seconds or maybe a minute of running. And that should not be happening. It could also be a fluid issue, I guess. See how milky that's starting to look? So I don't want to change the filter first, see if that changes anything, and then I guess we'll go from there if it doesn't. All right, I think I've got that filter pretty well broke loose. I had it super tight because I was thinking possibly could be leaking around the gasket, and so I went ahead and tightened it up with channel locks way tighter than it should have been, just to try to see if that was an issue, and it didn't change anything. And we're probably not going to change anything by changing this, but you got to start somewhere. It's not a bad idea to change it. See how aerated that fluid is? You can see it on the filter there. Maybe. See, it looks milky, but it's not milky, it's air. Just from that little bit of running. So I don't know if that's a fluid compatibility issue or something like that. Possibility, I suppose. I did have to add some fluid to this thing when I did that job at the poultry houses and was pulling that scraper. I had to add a bucket of fluid, and I don't know if it was something could have been not compatible. I wouldn't think so. I mean, it was universal tractor fluid. It was supposed to meet Mahindra spec, but I don't know. I don't know if I can try to inspect that filter base a little more and see if it's cracked or whatever. I may try to look at that and see if I can tell anything more about it, but other than that, I'm going to put the new filter on there and going to go from there. Alright guys, I just noticed something. This is the new filter right here, fixing to put on there. If you look down in the bottom of there, there's a spring right down in the bottom of there. It's like some kind of check valve maybe or something. Maybe the camera's picking that up. Right down on the bottom. The one on the other filter is damaged because it got hit on the bottom. I'm wondering if that could be a problem. If you see right here, this filter, something hit the bottom of it. I think that probably happened when I was loading that scrap iron. I have not run the tractor a whole lot other than that job I did at the poultry house, and I had a little issue with it then, but it wasn't as bad. But you probably can't see down in there, but that spring is turned kind of sideways, crooked. So if that's some kind of check valve or something, I'm not sure if that could be letting something happen there. So that's the only thing I've seen so far. Alright guys, it's still doing it. It seems like I got it pretty high idle here. You watch the loader, how jerky it is. It's kind of slow and jerky. It's so weird because the hydraulic pump still makes full pressure, seems like. And you can see how aerated that fluid there is right now after working it up and down a little bit. So we still got an issue. I don't know what it is. All right, guys, so we are back on the Mahindra here with our problem with our hydraulics, air in the hydraulic system aerating the fluid so the hydraulics won't work. So far what I've did is basically remove the tire and drain the hydraulic fluid out of it. I've got two buckets that I had under here that's clean. There's several drain plugs in the bottom of this system so that you can get the hydraulic fluid out of all the compartments here. And so I put one bucket here under this plug and one bucket under that plug back here in the back, and pull the plugs out right there. This was the rear plug, and you can see the amount of the metal and stuff on there, which is not good. And then the other one has some on it as well, but not quite as bad, but still got some on it. Anyway, that's about finished up draining. I think that there's supposed to be a sump screen right here. I have not verified that by the book, but by looking at it, I would say that there probably is, or there would be no reason to have a canister right here. So I'm thinking that may be part of our issue, that this screen here is probably going to have a bunch of stuff on it, because as I say, this plug here come out of right back there where it's draining at. I don't know if you can see where I got the bucket right there, but that's where the plug come out. And this is our suction right here going into this, what should be a screen. And then we got a rubber hose right here, which has got some dry rot cracks around it right here. So a combination of this probably being stopped up, and then we're probably getting some air possibly being pulled in through this rubber hose here. There's also another section of rubber hose on the front side up here you can't really see, but it's in front of these filters up here. So we're probably going to have to replace that. I know you see that this is all dirty and oily. I had a hydraulic leak up under here a while back, and it was a line that was loose up on top of here, one of these small lines, and so it was leaking oil, but I have since tightened that up, and this just hasn't been cleaned off here, so it's still dirty and nasty there. But anyway, I think what I'm going to do now is put these plugs back in. That's about drained, and get that taken care of, and get these buckets, put the cap back on the bucket so that don't get trash in it. That oil is not all that old, so I'm going to reuse that, or at least I plan to, and then we're going to clean this off right here around this. I think we got to pull 3 or 4 bolts out around here. There should be a gasket or something, I'm guessing, and then loosen this clamp up, and this screen assembly should slide out of here, and then we should be able to take these bolts out here and pull this screen assembly out and see what it looks like. So I'm still trying to get this suction strainer thing off here with these 4 bolts. You would have thought where this provision output is poking out here, that they would have made this like a screw-on cap with a nut right here, so you could take that out and pull whatever's in there, strainer cartridge or something out, but that's not the case. I guess that would have made too much sense. So you gotta take the whole thing loose, I guess. But we probably need to change that rubber hose up there anyway. And I don't know what kind of hose that is, if that's something I'll have to get from Mahindra, or if I can just order a piece of hydraulic suction hose, the correct size, or what. I will have to figure that out when I get a little bit further here, I suppose. Alright guys, well, I've got that thing removed, and it's got a long pipe on there. I'll show you on the other part that goes way down in there and sucks off the very bottom. This rubber hose, I had to loosen up the hose clamps on each end of it and slide the rubber hose up to get enough clearance for this piece to wiggle out of there. You see what I'm talking about here? It's got a long piece here. This is where the 4 bolts are at, and an O-ring right around here, and this piece sticks inside the transmission and sucks right off the bottom. and so it wouldn't slide down from the rubber hose here. So I had to push the rubber hose up, get this end loose, and then pull it out, and it almost wouldn't come out far enough to clear the bracket over there, so I had to kind of wiggle it a little bit and get it out of there. But I got it out of there, and so now we're going to pull these two screws right here out, and I'm going to set you guys down, get both hands here. We're going to pull these screws out and see what kind of filter is inside of here and how stopped up it is. Alright, so I got both screws out here. Hope we can break the seal loose. Oh yes. Got some gunk on there. I mean, it's not absolutely horrible. Okay, so there's a, well, that's not right. That O-ring right there is not, that should be a snug fit. There's no way in the world that's sealing. No way. So is that O-ring shrunk up right there? Or is the plastic shrunk or what? Because I don't see no way in the world that that's sealing like that. I mean, there's just way too much slop there. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can get this cleaned out. It is full of metal. It's not enough metal that it would cause it not to suck anything at all, I don't believe. I'm going to clean this up over there and investigate this a little further, but that's what comes to mind right now. Alright guys, so I've took this O-ring out of here and put another one in there, a metric O-ring. It looks to be the same size as the one that come out, and I've got the same problem. So I'm wondering if someone has took this apart before and put the wrong O-ring in it or something, because there's slop side to side. I don't know if you can pick that up on camera, but that's moving side to side, you know, in that O-ring. There's no way that can seal. And when you pull the O-ring out of here and put it around here, there's a gap around the O-ring. I mean, so something's going on there. I'm not sure what, but I'm going to have to figure out a way to make that seal, or it's going to continue to suck air. I don't see much good way for that to work, which, and it may not be as big of an issue as I think it is, because this whole pipe should be filled with oil, but I still don't think that that's very good right there. So let me think on that and figure out what I can do to better that. Alright guys, so this is the O-ring that come out. This is a metric O-ring. I've got one of those Harbor Freight O-ring kits. I've got metric and standard. This is metric, which is being a Mahindra, made in India. Should be metric, but I got a standard O-ring. This is thicker, and I'll show you the difference here. This is one that come out, as I say. You can see how that just flops around on there. Pretty sure that didn't come from factory like that. And so when you put it in the groove in there, still this piece, that's why this is wobbling in there like that. So I think this one here, being a standard, is thicker. That fits on there with no wobble like it should. And so I'm thinking that somebody has probably had this apart before and put the wrong O-ring in here or something like that maybe. So I'm going to see if I can get this O-ring down in this groove and see
how she comes out. Well, it fits in there a lot better. Let's see if this goes in there and feels snug. Maybe a little too snug. Not wanting to go in there. So I may have to, got a little burr on the edge of this right here. May have to file that burr down right there and put a little bit better oil on there. And I think we can get it to go in there and seal properly. So let me take a file over here. Just file this burr off right there. And put a little bit of STP or something slick on here, and I think it'll go right in there. Alright guys, I've got the burr cleaned off of there and a little bit of oil on there, so we're going to see if it'll go in there now without cutting the O-ring. Yep, it went in there and it's firm. It don't wiggle around. It feels like it's got a good seal. I think that right there will work 100%. So now I'm going to check this O-ring over here, and if I've got one that big, I'll replace it. I'm at least going to make sure it's got a good seal on it. But I think that right there may have been a lot of her problem, if not all of her problem. That's got a good seal on it now. I don't know, surely that did not come like that from the factory with that big gap in there. If it did, something bad wrong. But I think somebody's been in here messing around. That's what I'm thinking. They put the wrong O-ring in there. And that's not the correct O-ring, I don't guess, because it's not an OEM Mahindra. I mean, that's a Harbor Freight, come out of a Harbor Freight O-ring kit, but that'll seal, I can guarantee that. So this is the Harbor Freight O-ring kits I was referring to that I were using there. This is the metric set that I have, and this O-ring right here matches this factory one, or one somebody put in there, whichever, perfectly right there. But that is not correct, or not one that's going to seal. So I went to my standard kit here, and that's where I got this thicker one at. Right here, you can see how much thicker that is. It's the same, pretty much the same diameter, but it's a lot thicker. And so it took up the slack where that suction tube was moving in there. Anyway, these has got me out of quite a few binds. Picked these up at Harbor Freight one day when I was in there, and they come in handy for stuff like that. I don't have one big enough for the other piece, but it fits right in there, and that's why I had to bump it with this ratchet when I was taking it apart. So it had a good seal there. It just didn't have a seal on the suction screen. All right, I went and put a little bit of red grease on that O-ring right there, so that should go in there, and maybe give it a little bit of rust prevention right here where you can see the corrosion starting as well. And that's sealed in there, and I think we're ready to go back together with that part of it. I've cleaned this all out and everything. And this bottom of this here's got to go in this right there. And then that should go right on up there like so. And then all we got to do is put our two little bolts in there, snug them down, and that should be all of that for that. I've got to check the O-ring that goes in this groove, which is down there on the transmission housing. I think it's going to be okay as well, because it wasn't leaking any fluid or anything there. And being so that's an external O-ring, I think if that was the problem, it would have been leaking. Whereas that one there was an internal, so even though it was sucking air, you know, there's no way that that was ever going to show up anywhere. We also got to see about what size this rubber hose is here and see if I can get some of that if I don't have anything, which I'm not sure that I do. Yeah, grease squeezed out a little bit right there so that it'll help keep corrosion down between those two pieces and keep rust from getting in there and jacking that apart maybe. But yeah, that should be good on that. Let me check out this size of this, figure out my rubber hose issue now. All right, so this is our suction hose where these two pieces went together right there. And I don't think that's where it was leaking at. I really don't. I think it was leaking right there. But I believe I may have a piece of brand new suction hose over here that I can replace this piece anyway, since I got it in my hand. And I'm not going to probably worry about the other piece on there just yet, because I don't see a problem with this one. It is split around the edge right there just a little bit, but it doesn't appear that, you know, inside that it was sucking air through it or anything like that. But walk over here in the corner, and I think I've got a piece of hydraulic suction hose here that is the same diameter. The end of it's crushed here. I'm going to have to cut that off. But I think that's the same. That's hydraulic suction hose. That's what that is. And so I think that is the same diameter. I'm going to cut a piece of it off and we will see. Alright guys, that does appear to be the same stuff, except for this that I have has wire reinforcement in a few spaces on places on there to keep it from being sucked in two. And I think this one is stretched just a little bit, so I may have a hard time getting this on there. I put some grease in there. I'm going to try to see if I can get it started on there and get it shoved up on there, because it has to slide all the way. The other piece has to go on, then it has to slide back over that coupling in order to put the clamps on it. Well, we're going to try it. If not, I may wind up having to reuse this old one, but I hope not. Hoping this right here is going to do the trick. Alright, so I put a new O-ring on here, put some grease on it, try to keep it down in that groove there to keep them getting cut. Hopefully. I've got this new piece of suction hose up on there. I had a little bit of trouble with it. It's a little bit tight. I'm thinking I might have a little bit of trouble getting it to slide up on the other piece once I get it on there, but maybe we can get it to work. But basically, this piece has to go in here like this, go in there, and then kind of twist like so, and goes in, and then this end will rotate up, and that hose will go on right there, and then the other end bolts up down there. So I'm gonna need both hands to do this. There's really not room for the camera down here, but that's what I got to do to get that put back together, and then hopefully that should fix the problem. At least I think so. Alright guys, I've got everything buttoned back up there. I had a time with that hose. I knew I was, but I did get it back on there. I had to take me some channel locks and put on it and twist it, and put, you know, I had that grease on there, and then I took a little propane torch and just warmed it a little bit to get it, you know, to expand just a little bit, and put my channel locks on there and twisted it as I pushed, and was able to get it to work up and get on that other piece there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the oil back in it here, and then I'll probably wait till tomorrow to start it up and try to run it. This thing got pretty late out here, and it's cold outside, and I don't want to open the shop door up to be able to run this thing for a while. And so I'm going to go ahead and get the oil put back in here, and that'll tell us if we got any leaks down here on the bottom anyway. And then tomorrow, like I say, I'll start it up and run it, and then put the tire and everything back on it if it works good like I hope it will.
I think this thing holds about 9 gallons or so, something like that. So it's not quite 2 full buckets. Well, it's been running about 10 minutes. Let's see what we got here. And that don't really look no better, does it? Not what I was hoping to see. I think I may have found the problem. That other hose down here, I don't know if you guys can see it right there. That other hose right there, that clamp was a little loose.
I snugged it up, and I think it's improving from what it looked like. It looks like it's starting to clear up. I snugged that up about 5 minutes ago and then looked at it. It looks like the air bubbles are starting to clear up in it. So I'm gonna let it run another 15-20 minutes. Check it again and see if all those air bubbles go away. If it does, that'll kind of tell me what it was. That clamp was pretty loose down there. And I took a socket and a ratchet and got on it instead of a screwdriver so I could get it pretty snug. And we're gonna see what that does. All right guys, this thing's been running about an hour. I had to change a steer tire on my 18-wheeler, so I just let this thing sit here and run so we could check it out. I think that fixed it. Pretty clear. What it ought to look like. So that's good to know that we got that fixed. All I got to do now is put the tire back on, and I suppose this joystick is still leaking. That's not a huge issue yet, but it's gonna become one, looks like. So I need to spray a little bit of lubrication on that. I like to keep them batteries disconnected. Ain't gotta worry about them draining down or shorting out or something like that while they're sitting in here in the shop. But yeah, that hose that was up on there, the clamp was loose, I guess. I mean, it was snug with a screwdriver still, but I put the ratchet on it with a socket and I was able to snug it up quite a bit more. So I guess that hose has, you know, gotten older and shrunk. It probably needs to be replaced, just like I replaced this one down here when I had it off. But if it's not sucking air right now, we're gonna let it be. And if I run into that issue again, I know what it is. I'll have to pull that hard pipe off of the hydraulic pump, which I'll probably have to pull the loader off to get to, and the side panel and all kind of other stuff to get that off of there, to be able to get in there to work to get to that. But simple fix other than that. At least it's not something expensive like the hydraulic pump. So all I got to do now is get that tire that's full of water, roll back on here, and line back up, put on. So I may do that another day. I'm not exactly sure yet. Anyway, I guess I'm gonna wrap this video up. That's all the problem was a loose hose clamp and that hose sucking air.